I'm just your average Joe, an office worker you could find anywhere. Justin Sullivan, 42 years old. I live with my wife named Kimberly, who is 4 years younger than me. Our days are utterly ordinary, but Kimberly always manages to brighten them up, which makes home feel like a first aid kit for my bruised heart. We haven't been blessed with kids, but the peaceful and warm life with beloved her is an irreplaceable treasure to me. That's why my humble wish is to grow old together, slowly walking through life until our hair turns gray. Life has its ups and downs, though, and even in my happy existence, there's a thorn in my side. That's a son of the president of my company, Michael. I think he just turned 32. He joined my department recently but seems to have no inclination to work, probably because he spent the last 2 years drifting, without a sense of responsibility. Unfortunately, I was chosen to be his mentor, so I can't just ignore him. I check his documents as much as possible, but he always makes significant mistakes. No matter how many times I point them out, he seems to dislike it and snaps back, which wears my patience thin. Furthermore, he always ends up insisting he's not to blame. That is incredibly frustrating.
You're such a nitpicker, man. A digit off here and there doesn't really matter. And just so you know, it's not that I can't do the job, it's your teaching that's at fault.
He never admits his mistakes and always blames me. Since he's the president's son, no one dares to complain about him. I'm at my wit's end, popping antacids and trying to soothe my stomach, but at this rate, I'll probably end up with an ulcer. At the meantime, my wife Kimberly always listens to these stories and comforts me with kind words.
Work sounds so tough, you shouldn't overdo it. Don't hesitate to talk about what's bothering you.
Her words always bring me comfort. I feel embarrassed for complaining when she's so understanding and supportive, making me feel incredibly lucky. Despite the challenges, I truly consider myself fortunate. This morning, like every other, I left the house after enjoying the delicious breakfast Kimberly made. At the office, I checked Michael's tasks while managing my own. Today, work is going smoothly, so it looks like I'll be able to head home early. For lunch, I ate the delicious sandwiches Kimberly made, and then it was back to work until I received a call from the police on my cell phone. Huh? Why would the police be calling me? Feeling a sense of dread, I answer. Hello. Only to be asked.
Are you related to Kimberly Sullivan?
When I confirm, they inform me that Kimberly has been involved in a traffic accident and taken to the hospital. Shocked, I immediately ask about her condition. What? How is she doing? She's not in any danger, is she? However, they only told me to come to the hospital right away and didn't provide any details. I worried sick and unable to stay still. I found it odd and worrying that I was hearing about that from the police and not Kimberly. Besides, that they wouldn't tell me how she was. My mind raced with questions. As I explained the situation to my manager, and allowed me to leave early, even though work was unfinished. However, when I was about to leave, a loud voice stopped me.
Shoot, this is serious. Hey, mentor, you gotta fix this.
It was Michael calling for me. However, after explaining my situation and that I'd been granted leave by the manager, he said something unbelievable.
That's none of my business. I messed up an order. A huge amount of product has arrived, and it's a big problem. It's all because you didn't check properly. We need to find someone to buy this stock right away.
Kim, my precious wife was rushed to the hospital after an accident, and this is what you say. Do you even understand the situation? I couldn't help but raise my voice in anger, to which he responded without a change in his expression, uttering harsh words.
I don't care about your wife. The company incurring losses is a bigger issue. Unless we get rid of this stock, you're not going anywhere.
What a stupid thing to say. I was boiling with anger at his insensitivity. Arguing was a waste of time, so I checked the order form while hurrying, and it turned out to be a mistake made by Michael on a day I'd been off. As you can see, this mistake is yours. You need to take responsibility for it. I tried to explain, but he stubbornly refused to accept it, so I asked the manager to intervene. Yet, before the manager could respond, Michael started speaking first.
Boss, the mentor's guidance is so off. It's why I made a mistake. Trying to dodge responsibility is just unprofessional, don't you think? If this makes me out to be the bad guy, it feels kind of like harassment. What do you think?
Then, he was even dragging the manager into that to prevent me from leaving early. The manager was weak against Michael as the president's son, and pitifully couldn't assert himself. Eventually, he told me I could leave only after finding someone to take over the order. Is this even right? No, it can't be. However, the quickest way to get to Kimberly was to find someone to take the order. With that in mind, desperate to get to Kimberly, I spent 3 hours searching and found a place that would take most of the goods. As I grabbed my phone to tell the manager, "I'm leaving," I noticed an unbelievable number of missed calls from the hospital. I had it on silent and hadn't noticed. Tentatively, I listened to the voicemail, and it said Kimberly was in critical condition. My hands shaking, I finally managed to call the hospital back. The receptionist asked me to hold on, and after a while, someone claiming to be the doctor in charge came on. "Hello, this is Justin Sullivan, Kimberly's husband. She's okay, right?" Unable to wait for the doctor's response, I asked, but only to be told the shocking truth.
"We did everything we could, but sadly, she passed away a little while ago. When she was brought in, she wasn't breathing, so we had to put her on a ventilator."
I can't remember anything he said after that. My memory just blanks out from there. I can't believe it. Kimberly is dead. It must be a mistake. I immediately called a cab and rushed to the hospital she'd been taken to. At the hospital reception, when I mentioned the call, they quietly led me not to a hospital room but to the morgue. As I gingerly entered, I saw someone covered with a cloth lying on a stretcher. Hoping against hope it was a case of mistaken identity, the doctor and a nurse gently removed the cloth. Oh! An involuntary, hoarse cry escaped my lips. There lied Kimberly, who just that morning had a hug to me with a smile at the doorway.
I love you, take care.
Her cheerful smile and voice flashed in my eyes. She was fine in the morning. How could that have happened? Kimberly on there was covered in bruises, and her face was swollen with traces of bleeding from her ears. Unable to accept that reality, I collapsed in tears and couldn't move for a while. "Hey, Kim. Can't you hear me? Kimberly. Please respond. Tell me this is some kind of joke." After crying out, I was left in a daze and filled with pain and sorrow. I was unable to eat or even remember how I got back home from the hospital. I know it's wrong, but part of me wishes I could join her. With help from those around me, I barely managed to serve as the chief mourner at her funeral. During the funeral, Michael showed up. Then he looked at Kimberly's portrait and spoke to me.
I came on behalf of my dad and the manager. You should be grateful. Wow, your wife was really beautiful.
Then, he uttered something unbelievable.
Well, this is it for humans, huh? But if you think about it, it was all your slow self's fault. Or maybe she wouldn't have made it anyway.
While I was standing on the brink of despair, the heir's laugh seemed devilish to me as mocking my agony. I was unforgivable that his actions dragged me into that mess to prevent me from being there for the final moments of my dear wife, and he dared utter such filthy words. In my grief, rage boiled over, and just as I was about to confront him, someone stood in front of us to block the way as if to stop me. There was a beautiful woman, and she scolded with formidable presence to Michael, laughing obnoxiously at the funeral.
"Did my brother do something to you? Get out of here now, or shall I throw you out myself?"
After saying that, she went to the coffin, where Kimberly lay, and began to cry. The woman, who was so similar to Kimberly, was her twin sister named Brittany. I had been told that when their parents divorced, custody was split between their mother and father. Michael was unaware of these circumstances, and looked flustered, comparing the beauty with the portrait. He was unable to move as if his legs were about to give way. He was someone as if who'd seen a ghost. As he stood there dumbfounded, Brittany delivered a harsh rebuke.
Didn't you hear me tell you to leave? Having employees who can't grasp basic manner disrupts company order. You'll be dealt with later.
His quiet questioning showed he clearly had no idea who she was. Actually, Brittany is the president of our parent company. It is a position not even Michael's father, the president of the subsidiary, could oppose. When I explained that, Michael turned ashen, looking like he might collapse any moment. He probably didn't even know who the president of the parent company was, since he always slacked in his duties. When I finally managed to contact Brittany about Kimberly's passing, she was on a business trip overseas and couldn't return immediately. She cried over the phone, and promised to make it back to America in time for the funeral. It was good in time. I was glad that she made it. I thanked her with wiping away tears, and her expression shifted from anger to one filled with sorrow. Then, I apologized to her.
I'm so sorry I couldn't be there for Kim's final moments. I should have done everything to be at the hospital. It's my fault Kim had to leave this world alone. I'm really sorry.
Words failed me. Tears flowed endlessly, but Brittany offered unexpected comfort.
The thought of Kim no longer being in this world is unbearable, but I'm grateful for how much you loved and cherished her more than anyone. You were kind and warm to her even after discovering she couldn't have children.
I remember that day well. When we learned from the OB/GYN that we couldn't have children, Kimberly was so devastated, which broke my heart. She apologized to me repeatedly, wanting kids as I did, but I assured her that having her was all I needed. We vowed to be a couple in love for a lifetime. As those memories crossed my mind, Brittany voiced the exact thoughts, and that surprised me. Kimberly even had shared that with Brittany. She continued.
It's not just that. You always told Kim how delicious her cooking was, thanking her. And she loved that you'd wash the dishes after eating.
When I said that was something anyone would do, Brittany shook her head and told me being loved that much was enough for anyone. Hearing about Kimberly's feelings from Brittany filled me with so much sadness, and I was at a loss for words again. But Brittany gave me warm words through her tears.
Thank you for loving my dear sister. Thank you for making her feel happy every day.
Hearing that from Brittany, who shared Kimberly's face, felt as if she was speaking to me, and tears flowed endlessly once more. The loss and pain of losing her wasn't mine alone. Brittany felt it too. She stayed by my side throughout the funeral, which was more comforting than anything. Being with her felt so much like being with Kimberly that it helped me through being the chief mourner. When I returned to work after the mourning period, both the president and the manager apologized profusely, so I made a point.
More than your apologies, I want a promise. Ensure no one else ever goes through what I did. That's all I have to say.
They told me to promise to honor my request. Noticing Michael was absent, I asked about him and learned Brittany had sent him to a rural subsidiary. It seemed so sudden, but perhaps it was arranged so we wouldn't have to see each other. Somehow, that made me think it was all for the best. Apparently, the place Michael was sent to has some pretty strict folks, and he wouldn't be able to slack off anymore. He's probably working hard now. While I can't find it in me to forgive him, I hope this turns him around. Time passed, and it's been 5 years since Kimberly died. Initially consumed by grief, Brittany's words helped me change my outlook.
If you keep grieving, Kim would be worried. For my sister's sake, please start to recover, even if it's little by little.
Not wanting to sadden the one I love, I decided to move forward. As for today, just like Kimberly used to do, I made breakfast and offered it to her portrait, and told her, "I love you so much. Kim, can you hear me? Don't worry, I'm okay. The happy memories with you keep me going, so please watch over me from the afterlife. Thank you for being my wife."